Good evening, everyone. This is Tony from Refinement, Not Retirement, here in Southwest Florida, in Naples. As we told you in our last episode, I'm on my own this evening because my wife, Christine, is feeling a bit under the weather. We've been playing a lot of pickleball, and she's getting some nerve pains or pains in her neck, which making her feel rather down. She's controlling it with ibuprofen and stuff, but we are playing a lot of pickleball here. We're loving it. Um, it's so great to be back here in the sunshine and able to play outside, which is so unusual for us. You know, in the UK, we can only play pickleball inside, well, nearly always inside on badminton courts, which is great. But to be out here in this gorgeous sunshine, in this gorgeous environment, playing pickleball with different people of all kinds of skill levels is a real treat. But it does, you know, when you get to our time of life, it does exert some stresses and strains on the body. I certainly know that, and Christine is certainly feeling that at the moment. So she's back there somewhere in this what they call the great room here in our lovely rental home in Naples, Southwest Florida, which is a home nestled in a conservation preserve, as they call it here. We're surrounded by wildlife and natural creeks and waterways where we can cycle and walk, and it's just fantastic. But as we mentioned last time, we are here at the time of the US election, probably the most momentous US election of our lifetimes. And tomorrow is the US election. Today is the 4th of November. It's the evening. It's the eve of the US election. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. And nobody, I don't think, knows what's going to be the outcome tomorrow. We certainly don't know. So what are we noticing here? We said that we will continue giving you our commentary from a UK perspective of what's going on here. What are we noticing? If Christine was here sitting next to me now, as she normally is, I'd ask her, what are you noticing? Well, I'm not noticing all that much, really. It's pretty much like normal when we're here. You know, we used to live here. We lived here seasonally, that's in the winter, for 12 years. And we loved it, and we very much enjoyed it here as we're enjoying it here now. And we're not noticing, I don't think, a huge difference. You wouldn't really know that there's an election going on if you stay off the TV, which we do. We don't really watch the TV. So what are we noticing? Well, I noticed as I cycled round the community that there was an upside down American flag. What's the significance of that? Well, those of you who've been following the news will know the significance of that is that it signifies, I think I'm right in saying this, support for the insurrection. Justice Alito, who is a judge sitting on the Supreme Court here, had an upside down American flag flying outside his home. He blames it on his wife because she was upset with the neighbors who didn't like their vote for Trump signs or something like that. I mean, isn't that just bloody nuts when you consider what we're used to in the UK? One of the highest judicial figures in the country, Justice Alito, sitting on the Supreme Court, and yet overtly supporting Trump. And he was one of the main authors of the judgment, the decision, the ruling, which gave Donald Trump de facto absolute immunity from prosecution. So he at his house there was this upside down flag flown, upside down American flag flown, and that was what it we learned that it what it signified, and here we have one in this community. What else have I noticed? Well, doing the ordinary things like shopping. So their equivalent of Tesco here is Publix. They're everywhere. There was a woman, and I beckoned for her. She was obviously trying to make progress up the aisle. And I beckoned to her to come through, and I was waiting for her. She had a smiley face, and she warmly acknowledged my beckoning her through. And then I noticed she was wearing a red MAGA cap. I thought, there you are, an ordinary woman, obviously a very nice woman, I think, judging by her smile, and yet wearing a MAGA cap. What the hell was she thinking? What else? Well, we went to one of our favorite haunts here on Marco Island today, where we used to keep our boat. And we went down to the waterside. Christine was fascinated by the fact that there was this huge, obscenely huge, rather like a lot of the trucks that they drive on the road here, but in marine form, this huge boat with massive vote Trump vote Trump Vance flags and banners all over it. You never see this boat, by the way. I've seen this boat there many times before. You never see it go out anywhere. So it seems to be that its only use is to act as a political stage to support Trump. Christine was so fascinated by it, she wanted to take pictures of it. So she'll put the pictures up on our podcast Facebook page, I'm sure. So we noticed that. Oh yes, it said on there on the messages that went with these flags and banners. It said, "Let's take our country back." Take our country back from what? Exactly. I mean, it's mad. Well, it's mad from our perspective, our UK perspective. Maybe it's not mad from theirs. I don't know. And we noticed our neighbours next door glued to Fox News. Fox, sort of not news, I would say. I mean, it's not really a news channel, is it? I mean, you could hardly say that it's independent. It is a Trump channel. So what else have we noticed? Well, yesterday we went to play pickleball with friends of ours that we used to know when we used to live here. We sold up here in 2013, but we made many, many friends in the community that we lived in. And we had a reunion with some of them last night. We played pickleball with them. And then we went for a burger, sort of casual poolside dinner, waterside dinner with them. Most of them were Democrats. Not all, most of them. What we have noticed here is that people don't talk about politics very much. And I can understand why. You know, you don't want to offend. You know, they have a sense here they don't want to offend people. And I think they stay away from it for that reason. Most of the people, as I said, in our group were Democrats or Democrat-leaning, not actually all Democrats. One was definitely a Republican, but had no time for the Trump MAGA ideology. But they didn't talk about politics. Well, not until the Republican contingent had left. Because they talk about it when the person that they're talking to is a known quantity. I think otherwise they are worried that they will get into a very heated argument. And I can totally understand that. So friends tend to avoid the topic unless they're speaking to someone whose views they know and are comfortable with. The polls here are talked about all the time, and it seems to me that it's a neck and neck tie. It depends who you listen to. There are some polls at the moment that are suggesting that Kamala Harris is ahead by a nose. But the fact is, she should be ahead massively. I mean, speaking as a Brit, and people might say, well, you've got no right to have any view on this. You're not even from our country, and that's right. But I love America. I have lived here seasonally for 12 years. I've always done business with Americans. I have an affection for the country. But from my perspective, Trump's campaign is completely devoid of any substantive argument. Where is the policy, really? And where there is even a vague tissue of policy, like this business about imposing tariffs, it just doesn't make any sense. It sounds hateful. It sounds negative. But on her side, Kamala Harris's side, she does have policies. The policies she spelt out, they're clear, they're comprehensible, but most important, they're optimistic and hopeful. His are hateful, hers are hopeful. I mean, he just talks nonsense. I mean, he lies constantly, and for me, I mean, I'm a leaning person. I always have been. Nobody could describe me as a lefty. But this isn't a question, and I've said this many times before. For me, this isn't a question of right versus left. You can understand the arguments that go between the right and left. The left leaning people want more money spent on welfare, bigger government, etc., etc. I'm not like that. I have some sympathy with those views, though, and I think they are normal things to argue about, normal things to have different opinions about. But the sort of thing that Trump's talking about aren't normal things at all. I mean, on many things, he doesn't even know his own position. I mean, this abortion is a very big issue here. And I don't think he really believes in what he's talking about. Let's face it, the way he behaves in his personal life from a sexual point of view. Come on. It doesn't chime, does it, with someone who is supposed to be ultra, religious and pro life and all this sort of thing. It just really doesn't. But what has happened since, he trumpets about being, it being to his great credit that he and only he managed to scrap Roe v. Wade, which gave women the right to have an abortion. He crows about that incessantly. But for women, that's really, for most women, that's an abhorrent thing. That women here, since he did that, since he caused that to happen, women have been dying. Why have they been dying? Teenage women have been dying. Why have they been dying? Well, doctors are so fearful in those states where there is the most draconian ban on abortion. They are scared to intervene on the mother's behalf to save her for fear of imprisonment without the possibility of parole for life. Think about that. I mean, come on. And so it's natural that women are, on the whole, very much against that position and wanting to reclaim their reproductive health rights. So I think that's going to be, I think from a gut point of view, I don't know about the polling, but from a gut point of view, I think that's going to be quite a decisive issue. I can't see that women want to go back to the Dark Ages. So I think, well, one of the adverts that Kamala Harris's side has been running sort of encourages women to vote secretly without their husbands knowing, where their husbands are Trump supporters. And there's been a backlash from the Republican side saying, oh, how awful is that, that you'd keep your voting decision from your husband? Well, why not? It's one person, one vote, and they have the right to have their own views. Are we, are we really saying that men have the right to dominate the voting decisions of their women partners? Are we really saying that? Come on. So I think that that issue, is going. I think it's likely to be important. I can't understand, frankly, since Trump is a man who has, I mean, his utterances are all lies, and for the most part, they're nonsensical and unhinged. And it seems I just can't see how I can't see how people can vote with him, vote for him to become the leader of the free world. I just can't see it. Surely you need a person of undoubted character. And he is a person of basement character. I mean, I think that's the kindest way I can put it. I mean, the way the guy leads his life is amoral. I mean, come on, surely nobody can argue with that, really, with a straight face, can they? And so I just can't understand how people feel that he is a right and fitting proper person to put in this most powerful position in the world, with the levers of power, nuclear power even, world-ending power at his fingertips. This is a man who is vowing, if he wins, to go after his political enemies, to go after the press who express opinions against him, to go after American people who have different views to his, to go after immigrants. America is a country that is founded on immigration. Nearly everyone here is descendants of immigrants. I don't understand all this hateful talk directed at people who are less fortunate. I just don't understand it. And I just find it very, very disturbing that a man like this is really a leading contender for becoming the most powerful leader of our species in the world. I find it really, really, really concerning. So Christine and I are here, and we're experiencing all this going around us and feeling utterly powerless, which in a way is a good thing, because we don't sort of have a responsibility. We don't have a seat at the table in any sense. So we're just flies on the wall observing all this going on. wondering what's going to happen, what it's going to look, what the world's going to look like tomorrow. But be in no doubt, people, this is going to affect every country of the world. This election is going to affect every country of the world. I wonder what our leaders are feeling like I wonder what Keir Starmer's feeling like in the UK, wondering whether he's going to wake up tomorrow morning with the possibility, the prospect of having to deal with Trump, a completely unhinged human being. You know, if he wins, it looks highly likely that he will start to dismantle NATO, to undermine NATO. It feels highly likely that he will not want to support the efforts to be supportive towards Ukraine. I think that the implications of that are so frightening, don't you? I wonder how the countries around Ukraine, the Eastern European countries, are feeling, wondering whether this maniac, this wannabe dictator, as one American general described him, how do they feel about the prospect of him being in charge of their defense? I should think they're very concerned. And we in the UK should also, I think, be very concerned about all this. Now, there are people, and I have at least one daughter who is of this view. There are people who think that they shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris, or people shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris because of her and Biden's failure to properly speak up for the Palestinian people. And I share that view. Well, not that they shouldn't vote for Kamala Harris, but I share the view that Biden and Harris should have done more to stop this carnage. But it seems to me really strange to take the position that therefore we will sit on our hands and not vote, and allow Trump the prospect of becoming leader, when he has been very open about the fact that he wants Netanyahu. Sorry if I haven't pronounced that right. But he wants Benjamin Netanyahu, I'm not pronouncing that right, I apologize again, to have free reign. Go and do what you want. Get this job done. So he's quite comfortable with the idea of the Palestinian nation being obliterated by the Israeli state. So why would you, you know, for goodness sake, I mean, at least Kamala Harris is saying supportive things and trying to get Israel to do the right thing and to think about its actions more. Trump's completely the reverse of that. So that makes no sense. Come on, think about it. Trump's talking about using the military, the American military, to go after his enemies. And of course, he's got this comfort of having the Supreme Court behind him and giving him de facto absolute immunity. Whatever Piers bloody Morgan says, it is de facto absolute immunity that has been given to the president. So he would come in with that behind him. And there's also no doubt that the Supreme Court, majority of the Supreme Court, favors Trump when they should have no political position, because they're the judiciary, for God's sake. And he wants to go after the press, the media that speak against him. Well, I mean, it's very, very, very difficult for me to understand how anyone can find really solid ground on which to base their support for this man. If he loses in the election tomorrow, he's already paved the way for again saying it was all rigged and again wanting to overturn the results of a free election. This time it would be an insurrection, but an insurrection by litigation, an on paper insurrection, if you like. He's got all his soldiers lined up to cause havoc and to undermine the public's confidence in the election process. And there's no doubt about it, if he loses, this will go on for weeks like that. But eventually, I have confidence that the courts will do what they should do, as they did last time, notwithstanding the ridiculous, clownish behavior of the Supreme. Well, actually, it's not like clownish is too weak a term to use. The corrupt conduct of the Supreme Court justices on the right. I think, in spite of all that, I think the legal system will get it right once again. You remember last time Trump took out 60 lawsuits, more than 60 lawsuits, and lost in every single case. And I think the same thing will happen. It'll take time, but hopefully the Republican Party, which was a respectable opposition, or a respectable party and a respectable government in many times, it needs to come back and it needs to regain its sanity. And fortunately, there are lots of Republicans who are saying that they can't support Trump. There is the movement called Republicans for Harris, or Republicans against Trump, if you like. And they don't support Kamala Harris's political views in every sense. They don't. But they see this situation as it's far more important to get Trump, to defeat Trump, and to maintain democracy in the wonderful American country. And I think, I think they are right. And I think what will happen is that if Trump loses, he faces a whole world of hurt, because he is, he has a lot of, in my view, very meritorious legal actions against him, both criminal and civil. And I think they're going to bury him, if not imprison him, take away his freedom, which actually should happen, in my opinion. And I think, and I hope, that the Republican Party will come to its senses and realize that they must rid themselves of this evil influence, this amoral influence, this man with no dignity, with no moral compass. They must rid themselves of him, and I think they will turn against him, because they need to do that to regain their credibility as a party. So that's what I think, but who cares what I think? I'm not an American. I'm just a visitor here. Very grateful to be here. Don't come and kill me for expressing my opinions. But I really wish the American people well, and I feel confident that tomorrow they're going to make the right decision. I hope they are. My friends who are of a similar mind are talking about leaving the country if Trump wins, and they're serious about it. But I have no doubt that they'll change their view. because, to what extent is it going to affect their everyday lives, really? Probably not a lot. But I think it's going to affect the world. I mean, one of the world's most pressing problems at the moment is climate change. I mean, look at what's happened in Spain. Look at the way we all know the way the weather is changing, completely from the way we experience the weather conditions in our childhoods. Trump calls that a hoax. Trumps will drill, baby, and forget, just get rid of windmills. And, I don't know, don't even get me started on his alliance with Elon Musk, because I do not understand that for a moment. What the hell is Elon Musk thinking? And I say that as a owner of three Teslas over a number of years. I don't have three Teslas now. But I think they're a wonderful electric car. I think electric cars are wonderful. I think they're a fantastic technology. Trump's been decrying them and running them down and saying that they're useless for years. He's wrong, like he's wrong about nearly everything, or probably everything, actually. But what is Musk thinking? I mean, Musk is, oh, well, I mean, I just don't. I mean, he's obviously done a deal with the devil. I mean, that's the way I look at it. But there it is. Which fascinating, isn't it? I mean, if it wasn't so consequential, it is all really, really fascinating. So what are we going to, in 24 hours from now, we'll have presumably some preliminary news that'll give us an indication of where things are going. What's it gonna look like? Well, hopefully Christine will be feeling better by then. She's been listening to me waffle away in the background, and I'll no doubt in a minute I'll hear what she has to say about what I've said. But I'm very excited to hear about her views, and I would have liked to have had her involved here, but I understand her situation. Anyway, we'll be back to pickleball in the morning, and so take our minds off it and let's just hope for the best, shall we? And until then, well, thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support, and until next time, this is Tony signing off from the beautiful area of Southwest Florida. See you next time. Bye for now.